Welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. And now, let's get sketchy.
Hello there, everyone. Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com, and welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, the greatest live broadcast in all of YouTube. Boy, we missed you guys last week, but we're glad to get back into it this week. But if you're brand new to Getting Sketchy, what we do here is we try to create a drawing for you inside of 45 minutes, all live for your viewing pleasure, while we sit here and sweat and freak out. You guys get to sit back and watch and learn, hopefully. And like always, I'm joined by my good friend and fellow artist and art teacher, Ashley Hurst. He's sitting right over there. How are you tonight, Ashley?
I'm doing great tonight, Matt. I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, so I'm glad to be back together. Matt's going to be putting together something pretty creative for us. I hope you're going to follow along tonight.
Yep, and that's what this season is all about. We're in season 10 of Getting Sketchy, believe it or not. And this season, it's all about creativity. So each week, you guys are voting on prompts. You don't really know exactly what the prompt is about. That's part of the fun. Mm-hmm. We get to reveal it here tonight. And at the end of tonight's broadcast, I'm going to be revealing what you guys voted on for Ashley to do next week as part of Getting Sketchy. And I know what it is, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So make sure that you stay to the end to find out what he's going to be doing next week for his challenge. The week before last, we weren't here last week because it was spring break. We took the week off. The week before last, you guys voted for what you wanted me to do this week, and you guys voted for Fruit Loop, and I'm so glad you did because I wanted to do the Fruit Loop prompt from the very beginning. And what that is
He's going to draw a portrait of himself. Fruit Loop.
Yeah, I could do that, definitely. That would definitely work for the prompt. But what Fruit Loop is I'm basically going to do a mashup between two fruits. And the two fruits are an apple and a watermelon. Now, I'm using photo references to draw from, and I have shared those with you on the community tab. So if you want to take a look at the photo references, if you go to the YouTube channel, so to access the YouTube channel, if you're not already there, you can just look for the little icon of my face in the bottom corner of this video. Clicking on that will take you to the YouTube channel. You look for the community tab and you'll see the first post there at the top. It is the two images that I'm going to be working from tonight. I'll have them up on the screen too in just a few minutes when we start going into the drawing process. And I'll also talk about the materials that I'm going to be using tonight as well, which I have linked below in the description underneath this video. So if you want to purchase the same materials that I'm using, I've left links for those. Those are Amazon links, which means that I make a small commission if you purchase through those links at no additional cost to you. Now, if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so yet, or you like this kind of thing, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you're notified when we go live, and also when I post static videos, which I do from time to time here on the YouTube channel. And also make sure you click on the notification bell so you're notified as well. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you don't like this video, well, give it a dislike, I guess. But any type of interaction is good, of course, from you guys. And speaking of interaction, since this is live, there is a chat box here on YouTube. You can ask questions or make comments. And during tonight's broadcast, if you have a question or comment that's directed at myself or Ashley, specifically to us, if you put it in all capital letters, it'll help Ashley see it a little bit easier amongst all the other comments and questions, because the chat box does get going pretty quick. Ashley's manning the chat box tonight, and that will help him differentiate the comments that are directed at us. Now, if you want to go deeper with your drawing and painting, of course, we have a membership program over at thevirtualinstructor.com, which includes a variety of drawing and painting courses on a variety of drawing media and subject matter. We also do live lessons, which are part of the membership program. So after tonight's broadcast, Ashley is going to continue in the live lesson series that he's leading us through, where he's painting on black canvas with oils. It's a pretty cool process. But all of our live lessons are recorded and stored in our vault, so you can go back and watch all the live lessons all the way back to 2012. That's a lot of live lessons. There's also weekly critiques as part of the Members Minute and a year-long curriculum for visual arts teachers. All of it is included in the membership program. If you want to check out the membership program and learn a little bit more, there's a link in the description below this video. You can go check it out at any time that you wish. And everyone starts out with a free trial for a week, so you can test it out and see if the program's right for you. And I think that's all the stuff that I normally say here to get us started here. I'm energized and excited to get back into this one, guys, or get back into this Getting Sketchy here live on YouTube. Last week, I did feel like a little piece of me was missing, and I'm sure some of you guys felt the same way. I know we've got some really great devoted fans from all over the world, and we're both so grateful for that.
Speaking of all over the world, you guys are joining us from Pennsylvania, California, Jersey, New York, UK, Scotland, West London, Michigan, Australia, Nigeria, Mexico, and other places as well. So across the globe, whether it's today or tomorrow where you're at, we're glad you're here.
Yes, absolutely. And we know also that the time zone that we're in is pretty convenient. This is 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time where we are. But for many of you guys, it is in the wee hours of the morning or really late at night. And we're just real thankful that you guys are making the time to join us live here on YouTube. That means the world to us. I think that's it. Ashley, do you have anything else before we...
I don't believe so. You know, there's been a few comments. There was a lot of suggestions when this prompt came up, and there's been other suggestions. Nicole had mentioned a strawberry and a lime. And if you like this exercise, you know, this season is all about creativity. So this is the kind of a creative exercise you can do over and over in your own sketchbooks, besides following along with what Matt has selected to do tonight. And I like that strawberry lime combination. I think that would taste great.
I do. Yeah, that sounds delicious. Strawberry lime. I really like, what is it? Strawberry limeade? Is that a drink?
It may be. If it's not,
Sonic
if
or
it's
something?
not, it's going to be. It should be.
Yeah, it should be. Well, I think it is. I think there's a strawberry lime. I don't know. I'm posing like I drink
You can put a
drinks like
splash
that.
of lime in anything, right?
Right, I guess so,
splash
yeah.
of citrus always makes a drink better.
Yeah, but really all I drink is water and coffee. That's really it. I'm just posing. Yesterday I went to Five Guys actually, and I got a cherry vanilla Coke, and boy, that was...
It's a lot of flavor.
That was weird.
Just drinking water.
Well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. You know what I mean? So anyway, I went and got a carbonated drink, and it was great, but I only drank like a couple of sips of it. I was like, I can't take this anymore.
It's too much.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Poot and Holler put cherry limeade, not strawberry
That's
limeade.
what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. All right. With that, let's go ahead and switch over.
Let's take a look.
All right, so what we've got here, the paper I'm working on is PastelMat Paper. And for those who know, you know how wonderful this paper is. It looks super smooth. Even when I'm rubbing my fingers over it, it kind of looks super smooth. But it's pretty deceptive. It has a pretty heavy tooth, almost like sandpaper, like a fine sandpaper. And I guess this color is buff.
Buff. I was thinking sand.
Yeah, I think it's actually buttercup. I think that's the actual name for it, but I want to call it buff. So I'm drawing on the buff tonight, not in the buff.
I'm glad of that.
Yeah. These are the two reference images that I'm going to be working from. Obviously, we're going to be combining the apple with the watermelon here. So my plan is all of the fleshy parts in the apple are going to look like the inside of a watermelon, and the outside of the apple is going to look like a watermelon.
So it's all going to look like a watermelon. The shape is going to remain an apple.
That's exactly
the apple core.
My plan. Yes. And I'm going to be using pastels and pastel pencils. And if you're like, oh, Matt always uses pastels and pastel pencils, it does seem like that a little bit. I think, let's see, the last drawing I did, I can't even remember what the last one was for Gettin Sketchy.
I think it was 4 weeks ago because we had.
Oh, it was the mixed media realistic drawing of the avocados.
That's
so
right.
I used pan pastels and colored pencils in that one, and just a little bit of pastel.
Right.
But the first one this season, I did use pastels. But that made sense.
We're going to have to restrict
that. Made sense. We don't have to restrict it. This is restricted enough. This is hard enough.
That's true.
But the reason why I'm working with pastels is because this has a lot of color. Or my vision has a lot of color, and I want to be able to fit it inside of the 45-minute time frame. And
pastels do cover space quickly.
Yeah, they're perfect for that. Yeah. So I've got an assortment of pastel pencils. So I've got Carbothello pencils, and I also have these Conte a Paris pastel pencils. I really prefer the Conte a Paris pencils, but I don't have as many color choices in this. I just don't have the huge mammoth set. I have a pretty big set, but just not a lot of them. And the Carbothellos are really kind of better for details. The Carbothellos are a little bit harder. They're a little bit more in line with new pastels, which are really hard pastels. The Conte a Paris are pretty soft. They're very similar to traditional stick pastels. That's why I prefer the Conte a Paris. You might have some trouble layering over some of the layering Carbothellos over the top of pastel applications, where the Conte Opry will layer over pretty easily. So we're going to start sketching with a pastel pencil, and then we'll move on to pastels. I also have a variety of pastels, and the pastels I'm using are all Rembrandt pastels. I've just grabbed an assortment of colors real quickly here before we went live to get an idea of what colors I might use. If I have to reach for them, it's going to be catastrophic because I've got stuff all over the place here around me. But I do have a little collection of colors. I'm going to try to stick to that minuscule collection of colors here throughout the process.
Keeping it simple.
Trying to. So I need to find a pencil to start with, and let's see. I'm going to start with this light gray pencil. This is a Carbothello pastel pencil. This is what I'm going to create the sketch with, and then from there I'll start blocking in colors, and then we'll add the details as we go.
We want to welcome Anubis Clone to the show. Says, first time catching our live stream. Love watching the vids, though. Thank you guys for all you do. You're welcome.
Thanks for that.
Glad you caught the live show.
Mate. Yeah, cool, mate. All right. I guess I'm ready to start the timer here. Nervously start the timer. 45 minutes. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create the shape of the apple with kind of a looser sketch here. And obviously, I don't have to be perfect in my rendering here because, no one's going to see the references, right?
Ultimately, that's the way it is with all of our artwork. We never display our artwork with our references next to them. So you got to remember that when you're making your own artwork, that we've got a little bit of freedom. Change our shapes, modify our shapes.
Although some people like to do that, don't they? They like to show the reference photo because they, in their mind, they equate accuracy with quality,
and that can be a goal for a lot of artists. I mean, to some degree, it's all of our goals. We want people to recognize what we're drawing, but like maybe a photorealist, they may want to display. Actually, I have seen a book. A photorealist artworort from the 1970s that included paintings and the original photo they were painted
Have you?
from.
That is interesting.
It was. I had totally forgotten about that until it just came up.
That's going to make me eat some of the words that I've said to students over the years. Where
I think it was in our school library,
where I told them that you'll never see the reference displayed with the artworart. Now,
the artwork was very interesting. It was a lot of horses and like champion horses and their riders standing with a trophy.
Oh, that is kind of bizarre. Sometimes there's bizarre things in libraries, Yeah,
this was a book from the 70s. I think it had been last checked out in the 70s. They were throwing it away. That's how it ended up in my hands. Do you want any of these art books? I always go take a look. Sometimes I find some gems in there.
Well, gems are truly outrageous. Truly, truly outrageous. I wonder if anybody knows what that is. You know what that is, right? You giggled a little bit.
Is that the I'm trying to remember, is something in the gems?
No, remember that in the 80s?
Yeah.
Jim and it was a cartoon.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to think of the name of the cartoon.
It was Jim and I don't know what they were.
I can see.
But the song was Jim is truly outrageous.
I can see the introduction in my head.
Truly, truly, truly outrageous.
Came on like right before or after He-Man, maybe.
Oh, I don't know. It was definitely Saturday morning.
Yeah. Hoot and Holler wonders how big the square you're drawing in. I think it's 5
that's
inches.
Good. Yeah, it's 5 inches by 5 inches, and I'm not. I went too far down here, but it's okay. I did not want to go this far down because there's a cast shadow down here, and it's gonna kind of weight things a little heavy on the bottom. I'll go ahead and put a little bit of that in here.
Jim and the holograms.
Jim and the
That's
holograms.
That's it. A Scarf and Tea remembers Jim and the holograms. That's right.
Jim is truly outrageous. All right. So we've got the basic outline here, and you can probably tell
I like the character in your lines, though.
Yeah, I didn't really care too much about it being exactly like the apple. Now let's go ahead and put a base color down. Let's see. I think I'm going to start with a dark green up here. Yeah, we'll start with that. And just going to go ahead.
Good color. It's very close approximation.
well,
Maybe it's a little cool.
And I probably should have started with the flesh color so this can overlap, but it's okay. I'm going to have this, it looks like the pattern is mostly dark green, and then the light yellow green stripes are, covering less surface area. And I want to point out too that the edges, I'm not going to worry too much about the outer edges of the apple. That's all going to be cleaned up at the very end. So this buttercup color will be covered up completely.
Okay. Yeah, I like to use a background to kind of sharpen my edges too. That's a great way to work.
So don't fret if you're doing this alongside of me with pastels and you're trying to keep your somebody just freaked out there. Oh my gosh, you blew the pastels.
He blew it all over me. It's all over my white shirt. My buddy says, Matt, you are amazing already. Looks like an apple. By the way, eating one right now.
Well, thanks for that, buddy. But this is supposed to look like a watermelon apple. We'll call it let's see, what was she called? An app melon?
Let's see.
An apple,
yeah, I guess
melon?
So. Waterpool. No.
A waterpool?
Watermelon is already a compound word. You can't really mix it with a half a word. Water apple. I guess you could do that. Apple melon. I'm going to stick with apple melon.
I like warper.
Waterpool.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
Jay says, don't blow. Snapple.
Oh yeah, that's where the Snapple.
That's right. Those were combinations of.
Yeah, those Snapple.
Wapple,
those were the good old days there.
That's pretty good. Watermelon. Just put a W on the front of apple, and it's a wapple.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to the flesh color here, and I'm just going to start with a basic pink. And this is going to be made darker in areas as well. And, with a watermelon, there's like a little area where it transitions. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a light yellow-green rind.
That's right.
So that'll be our third base color. And then once we have these flat areas of color in, that's when we're going to start manipulating with lighter and darker values.
So just flat shapes of color at first, and then change those shapes into forms. And
right.
And texture, in this case, texture and pattern.
Yes. Texture and pattern, but we're going to go all the way up to the edge here.
Well, those Rembrandt pastels are so rich. They
are, and I'm looking at the screen, and they're way darker than they are on my paper. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure once I start getting some of these lighter tones in here.
Sometimes I see the same thing, a little discrepancy, but on some of our viewers' screens, it may look not darker. So I would just don't look at the screen, Matt.
Oh, I'm not gonna
look at the drawing.
Not gonna look at the screen. Just stay away from the screen. All right. Next, let's go ahead and do that a little bit of that transition, just to get that in. This is a light yellow-green. Let's see here. Let's let that kind of just go right along the edge here. You know what I'm talking about with the watermelon.
It is a transition, a slow transition. Where exactly the rind starts and the flesh stops. Sometimes I eat too far into the rind because I want more melon. So if you have a soft edge on there into the fleshy part, that's going to be a good thing.
I can't remember the last time I had a watermelon.
Well, probably last summer. I'm just guessing. We usually eat them in the summertime.
Yeah, I just never eat them. I just choose not to eat them.
At our house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Alice Reed says, "Thank you, Matt, for my members minute. Looking forward to using your suggestions. Made my week."
Awesome. So glad to hear that. And Alice created a wonderful looser watercolor painting as part of the Members Minute. That was last week's critique.
Fantastic. Joyce says, do you always start with dark colors? I guess instead of choosing the lighter green first for the pattern, or maybe where the lights would be, and then sort of shading into it for the flesh?
No, in this case, I just chose the color that I think would make a nice base color that would fill up a lot of space with the closest non-mixed color that I could find.
Okay. And with the pastel matte, there's not so much of a problem going over a dark color with a lighter color in these soft pastels anyway. So you don't have to think like you would with colored pencils, starting with lighter colors.
And speaking of which, let's go ahead. I'm going to start adding a little bit of variety here to the color.
Buddy's got a watermelon in the fridge waiting to be eaten. So Buddy's eating an apple with a watermelon in the fridge.
All right, we're going to let this area in the middle be darker. So I'm going to start adding some black here.
In that little hollow pit.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up with a friend who, when he would eat an apple, he ate the whole thing. There was, to him, there was no apple core. It was just all apple. And he would eat the whole thing. And do you do that, Matt?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
First of all, I don't really eat apples like by themselves. I'll eat them like with other fruit.
Gosh, I eat several apples a week.
But I don't necessarily just eat them by themselves. Now, I will eat other fruits, a lot of other fruits. Pineapple is my favorite.
You like the citrusy fruits?
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah.
I think I like all fruit. Never met a fruit I didn't like.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I'm just making some of these areas a little bit darker with the black and just trying to hash out some of the pattern and also some of the darker tones here. And this will gradually develop. So it's when I work with pastels, I like to kind of think of it as working with clay, where you start with kind of a ball of clay in your hands, and the more you work it, the more you have something, so just to be patient here. Let things slowly develop here.
Now, is that black you're using again?
It is black, and I'm letting it mix with the green that I've already got. And I've got another green. The green I've got on the surface still feels a little too cool. So I'm going to warm it up a little bit. And our stripes are definitely going to be a warmer yellow green, or the lighter stripes. So this is mostly handling the darker stripes right now. And we're going to let these patterns be as organic as possible. So not necessarily straight stripes, but just...
we can see that in the reference, a lot of irregularity in there. It makes sense to do the dark color first, because when you look at the dark stripes on the watermelon, they're pretty solid. But the light stripes actually have little bits of darker color peeping through them. So that was a good choice.
All right. Already starting to look a little watermelon-y.
Definitely.
All right, let's see if I can find... I think I found the green here. This is just a slight bit warmer.
Kind of working that black into the stripes with your warmer green, sandwiching it in there.
And it's kind of mixing it a little bit, mixing it with the darker values. And I feel like I've just started. Yeah, okay. So there's 32 minutes left. I actually have just started.
Lord Engine tells us that some varieties of watermelons actually have a softer core than others and can be eaten, and goes on to say that they used to eat Fuji's entirely.
Fuji's? Like the band?
The Fuji apple.
Oh, Fuji apple.
Yeah.
See, that's how ignorant I am to apples.
Oh, there's hundreds and hundreds of varieties of apples. And my great-grandfather, he was real proud of this apple tree that he had grafted 2 other types of apples onto it. So he had one tree that grew 3 varieties. So he was, we still tell the story in our family of the apple tree that grew 3 different types of apples. And I've decided that I'm going to try to do the same. I'm going to plant an apple tree and I want one side to be red apples and one side to be green apples. I don't know if I can actually have half and half. I might just have to get a few branches in there and see how it goes. I've never grafted anything.
Well, there's a first time for grafting, right?
First time for grafting.
There's a first time for grafting things.
James Fuller says, Ashley, have you ever tried a durian? Hope I'm saying that right. It's a fruit that is hard to like. I haven't. And I said that I've never met a fruit I didn't like, so I'm going to write that down. Is it bitter or sour? Is that what it is that makes it hard to like?
Maybe it's just mean to other fruits.
It's got a bad disposition. Snapdragons are amazing apples. That's from Alice Reed. I don't know if I've had a snapdragon, but I like the name.
It doesn't. I can't get excited about eating anything that snaps or is a dragon.
It's a fiery apple, maybe.
All right, so let's get a little bit.
Are great.
A little bit lighter with these greens here.
Mark asks, do you guys do any non-drawing based arts like ceramics? I guess you're thinking like fiber arts or 3D art in some way. We don't really do that on Gettin Sketchy, and maybe not too much at the virtualinstructor.com either. It's mostly 2D.
Yeah, it's all 2D stuff. Yeah.
I do
with the exception
with my classes, with my own students, but not here at the virtual instructor.
With the exception of the Ultimate Lesson Plan, which is part of the membership program, there is it's a curriculum for visual arts students, geared really towards secondary level students, and of course we do a clay. And some giant junk food. There's some sculpture in the Ultimate Lesson Plan.
Giant junk food is paper mache.
Right. Yeah. And there's lessons that go along with that, video lessons. So yeah, a little bit, but not that much. The sculpture is, well, it's just not really my expertise, and so. That's why I have a lot of it.
I do like clay modeling. It is a lot of fun. Let's see.
A little bit of a lighter yellow-green here.
Big Blue Minamiku tells us that the durian is kind of it's also known as vomit fruit. Smells awful, but tastes great. Just your description is turning me off.
Smells awful, tastes great. Yeah. That does not sound
also
good.
Described by Rebecca as garlic vomit.
Just not gross.
Goodness.
No thanks. Don't want to eat anything that sounds or resembles vomit in any way.
No. James says smells really bad. Rotten eggs comes to mind. So no wonder I haven't seen it. It sounds like because when you purchase fruit, you can smell it, but you're not supposed to eat it in the store. So I'd say that's a really hard sell. But if I see one, I'll pick one up just for the experience.
That's like those jelly beans that they make that are supposed to be disgusting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
there's a whole game.
Right, and the way it is like, at least with my kids, most of the jelly beans are good, but some of those vomit-tasting ones are just mixed in, and they giggle when I eat one of those. They watch me to see if I get the bad one. They haven't done that in a long time. They're a little older now. But I remember the gourmet jelly bean craze. Jelly beans that taste like other things.
Yeah, I think that's still somewhat of a little bit of a craze. Okay, yeah. This is black here. Again, just making some of our greens a little bit darker, and then we're going to go bright. We're going to go bright in just a second.
Jan says it would be weird to see someone eat a whole watermelon like that. That's what I was thinking. What kind of mouth could bite into a watermelon like that?
It would have to be a
hippo,
giant.
maybe, perhaps. I think I've seen hippos eat whole watermelons, or dreamed it.
Okay, let's see. Let's make this a little bit darker right up here, and then we're going to have a little bit of a highlight right here. Since the light is hitting over here, casting that shadow behind it. And 26 minutes, okay. I'm just going to patiently let this develop.
Steve F. says, just been cleaning up dog vomit, missed the first 25 minutes. Got a vomit theme tonight.
All right, that's not good. All right, let's go ahead and put in the stem here.
That's your raw. Is that raw umber? Is that the color?
They don't have names. Okay. They don't have names of colors on here, but it is. I would say it's that.
Yeah.
It's, middle of the road brown. What you envision brown to be. And then we'll make it a little bit darker here in the middle. We'll go ahead and get this mostly rendered here. And then we're going to make it a little bit lighter. Let's get this little good stuff down here at the bottom.
Matt and I were talking before the show, and I mentioned that, this is the way a lot of artists work all the time. Fantasy artists and illustrators, they're constantly creating species of animals and plants that don't really exist, and they're not always working purely from their imagination. They're using their imagination to sort of repurpose things from our normal or natural world to create something new. So this is a great exercise. Creative exercise, and it is very much a process that some people follow all the time, every day in their artwork. Never really reproducing a single picture.
All right.
Just blowing it all over the place.
Well, it doesn't go that far because
the PastelMat
paper,
It looks like a background's already.
It does such a good job of catching it. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit. Ron just doesn't seem right. It's very natural here.
That transition a little bit.
That's a little bit better. Softening it up with my finger.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're going to go over. We haven't done the flesh yet.
Right, we've got all our lights and darks to get in there. We'll see how Matt manipulates that original pink.
All right, let's go right along this edge here. Kind of bring that back.
Will this be a seedless watermelon, Matt?
No, it'll have seeds.
Okay.
That's the plan.
The old-fashioned watermelons.
The plan is to have seeds.
I miss the seeds sometimes.
Do they not make them with seeds anymore?
I guess we always buy the seedless water. I should say my wife always buys the seedless watermelons, and of course there are tiny. It's a GMO. This has got to be a GMO that you're drawing right now, and they've got tiny little white seeds that you don't really even notice while you're chewing. But as a kid, part of the fun was spitting the seeds at each other, because we had to eat the watermelon in the grass. We weren't allowed to eat the watermelon in the house because it was just going to drip all over the place. So we were outside already, so me and my cousins would just spit the seeds at each other. Quite the projectile. So some of the fun has been taken out of the watermelon.
You got to be able to spit the seeds. Right?
Keith Joel says, funny enough, I have the book Fundamentals of Creature Design right next to me. How about that? Creature design. That sounds fun. I like that.
This is the right. Let's see. This is not bad.
I have a student that's working a lot this way right now. She's combining two animals for her portfolio, for her concentration or exploration this year. She's been combining animals together to create a composite or a new animal, and they've become really interesting as she's starting to combine animals that have really different surfaces, like lizards that don't have any fur or hair, with mammals. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
It is. And they started out, more distinctly, I guess, connected at a certain area, almost like an animal was wearing the head of another animal. But as she's worked through her process, she's created smoother transition zones between where the fur and maybe the scales start and stop. And that's been nice. It's been exciting to see.
All right, so you can see we're adding the lighter bits here too. I still want to have some little pieces where it's really strong. So we're going to let this be a lighter value, but not the lightest value. And of course, we need to keep it organic. There'll be some.
Buddy says, hope you all had great Easter and spring breaks.
Yeah, absolutely. Same to you guys. It was great.
We had some quite variable weather in our part of the world. It was nice and warm some days and really cold some days. So the seasons are struggling against each other a little bit, but I think spring is winning.
Yeah, it was really cold this weekend, wasn't it?
I like the days that are cold in the morning and warm in the afternoon, though. Hard to dress for, but it's nice.
I like the days that are warm in the morning and warm in the evening.
What about the middle of the day?
Yeah, I like it warm in the middle of the day.
Some like it hot.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, I actually like it hot myself.
I like lots of sunshine.
I really don't have a problem with hot weather. I don't mind it at all. Now, we do live in the age of air conditioning, so I can always escape it. Maybe if I had to sleep in a hot room, you know.
Yeah, but you know, there are a lot of people in the world that don't have air conditioning because they don't really need it. I don't think
that's true.
I don't think
we live
there's
in a very temperate area.
I don't think there's a lot of people in England, for example, that have a lot of air conditioning.
That's quite a bit further north than where we're at latitudinally.
I could be wrong.
We love our cold boxes here in the south of America. We get real hot and sweaty outside and then go into our frigid boxes and put on a blanket. I mean, I literally, I'm underneath. I've done it. I've said the word literally. Overusing that word.
You've literally said it.
I'm trying to break a habit of that. Trying to break that habit. So if you catch me using that word.
You can now just say figuratively.
There you go. But I actually sit under a blanket, not in the winter, but in the summertime. And I ask my wife, why do we pay for this air conditioning? And then I come inside and put a blanket over my legs. So.
That's hilarious. All right.
It's not the air. It's that we don't agree with where the temperature should be with the air conditioning. So I just want it just 2 degrees warmer in the house. Just 2 degrees would make a difference for me.
All right. Before we
looks great.
Before we go any further with the texture of the skin, there's more I want to do here, and I need to make that shadow darker. Let's go ahead and work in the flesh a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that flesh is looking really flat now.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with kind of a darker red here, and just start putting some bits of some darker values. And again, these are going to be pretty organic too. It's not going to take a whole lot to create an illusion. Just want to have a little bit of value range. And again, considering that the light source is coming from
the left,
that this side here, we're going to let be a little bit more in shadow.
Keith points out that most or many homes in the UK were built before air conditioning. That's one of the reasons they don't have them. My own house, and we live in the South in America, where it can get steamy. And my house was built without air conditioning, just due to its age, probably. But it has central air now. But it has this wonderful fan in the ceiling right in the center of the house that is super powerful. And when you turn it on, it sucks air up and into the attic. And so the way, and maybe UK houses are this way, I don't know. But I love it because I can go a couple of weeks longer than everybody else around here in our area without turning my air conditioning on, because in the evenings when it's cool, we just open up the windows and turn on that really powerful fan, and it sucks all of the stuffy air into the attic and pulls the air from outside into the house in minutes. And it's like a 15-mile-an-hour breeze blowing through the house. It's crazy. I think that's my favorite part, is it makes wind all the way through the house. Feels great.
I think you like it because it's something else in your house that makes wind besides you.
Are you calling me a windbag?
I was thinking of the other kind of wind.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
The kind that you break.
Yeah.
The fragile wind. All right. So a little bit of red here. I would like to get a little bit more variety in that color, and we'll try to do that in a minute. Let's go a little bit lighter pink. So we've got a couple of options here. Let's see if this is lighter, if this is the same color.
Yeah, Jennifer says we have very few extremely hot days in the UK, or sunny days, as I understand, and that's part of the heat. It's just that radiant heat from the sun kind of beating on you. That's what makes you so hot. And we have a lot of humidity in our area. So over the break, in fact, I was playing golf and it was so nice, and I checked the humidity and it was only at like 38, and a lot of times it's like 70s or 80% humidity in our air in this area. And it's just amazing how nice it felt with that lower humidity.
Okay, now we're starting to get a little bit of definition here, slowly but surely.
You've got 16 minutes.
I know, I saw that. I was like, holy cow, I got all kinds of time.
Yeah, you do.
I should have done this in colored pencils. That's a joke. I should not have done this in colored pencils.
Alice Reed says, any pastel pencils you would recommend to stay away from?
I don't really typically like to put down other products that people like to use. So I'll kind of just refrain from that. I do have a brand in mind that I could definitely tell you to stay away from, but that's really not
we try to
what
focus
I like
on
to
the
do.
Positive here.
Yeah, some good brands.
Yeah,
are these are Conte a Paris, as I mentioned before.
They're fantastic.
They're probably my favorite and one of the best out there. But they're expensive and they break really easy. And they're a little bit difficult to sharpen because they break so easily. So that's something to think about. So I usually use them in combination with other brands like I'm using here. And then Carbothello I really like because there's a lot of color options and they're really good for precision, but they are a little bit harder. So you can see there's some places where I'm using the Carbothello pencils almost just to mix, just because they're a little too hard to layer over the top of the pastel that I've already got in place. We'll go in here and add these seeds in a minute once we get a little more definition here.
All right.
Since the light source is coming from the left, I want it to be a little bit lighter on the hole on the left side. So I'm putting this pastel down, and then I'm going to go over the top of it with a pastel pencil, and that's going to act somewhat like burnishing colored pencils. So I'm not really adding much color here. I'm just kind of moving it around.
Softens those marks. Alejandro asks, any art materials that have been discontinued that you miss? I'm drawing a blank right now.
No, not really. There's so many products out there that
the one thing is some of the, if there's products that have been discontinued, I may not be aware of it. I may still have some of the old ones.
Oh no, me too.
As a art material collector. Let's see. I assume Old Holland paints are still around, but they've been discontinued, like in the stores that I usually shop at, and so that's one that I haven't used. Okay, let me say it like this: Old Holland paints have not been discontinued, but I haven't used them in years, and I miss not using them, or I miss using them. So Old Holland is a great brand of oil paints that are just chock full of pigment. I mean, there's just enough linseed oil to make the paint move, and so I kind of miss using those. And I love the oil paints that I've been using. I use Winsor Newton pretty much now. I use their Winton brand and also their professional grade brand, but I miss the Old Holland, so maybe I'll spring for some of those again.
All right, this is a little bit of a purpular. This is a pink that leans a little bit more towards purple. So it might not be very clear on the screen, but it is.
I can see it in there.
Making a little bit of a difference here. I'm trying to just get a little bit more variety in the color. I also want to have a little bit more of a peachy color. Let's see if this shows up much at all. Yeah, well, kind of.
Brent Does Art says, I think you might have had time for colored pencil. Still have 12 minutes, and it is looking, there's a lot of texture in there, a lot of mark making. So, but Matt's still got a background to work in.
Yeah, I still got the background. I still got the shadow. I still have the seeds.
Are you going to put a little bit of sheen on the surface of that?
I still need to put the highlights.
Outside, right? Yeah. So there's still some things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely work until the very last minute, and then I'll say, oh my gosh, I'm almost out of town. I can feel that almost happening here when you said that I have 12 minutes left.
Keith points out, he says, what made you think of this as a topic for Getting Sketchy? Not an obvious topic. Well, this season we have the theme of creativity. So we did actually think for a couple of weeks of prompts or themes that we could use that were a little bit maybe outside of the box. I think we had about a list of, I don't know how many we had.
There's 15 or 20,
something like that.
Yeah.
And of course, they won't all get used, and some of them were probably eliminated in the brainstorming phase. But this one came up. And Matt's been holding his breath all season for it to get picked. So
yeah, I wanted to do this one right from the beginning. This was my favorite one out of all of them. So I feel like I kind of nudged people to choose this, but that's okay.
But he says Old Holland has very good watercolors too. You know, I haven't ever used their watercolors. Love the colors. Works well with schminka.
I've heard that pronounced schminky.
Schminky. Schminky.
Which sounds a little bit like an evil...
Schminka.
Like some kind of evil mastermind. I'm schminky. I'm schminky.
Edie says, if I'm not mistaken, Winsor & Newton is made using safflower oil. Now, safflower oil is a non-dryer, isn't it? Like canola oil? I don't know. I've used safflower oil to clean my brushes in because I thought it was a non-dryer. So I'll have to check that out, Edie. So, sometimes walnut oil is used for some colors specifically, but I'm not sure which. Pigments and walnut oil are supposed to go together. Any paints I've made by hand, I've always used linseed oil, cold-pressed linseed oil, which is all the rage. You should make your own paints. Order some pigments and just regular linseed oil, and then you can choose how thick they are.
All right, I'm only going to add a few seeds in here. I don't want to, and I don't know where they should be either.
Like what is the pattern of seeds in a watermelon?
I'm just trying to make them look a little bit.
Buddy says organic. Actually, perfect pronunciation. Schminka.
Schminka.
Awesome.
Is that a German brand?
I think so.
All righty.
Like the A in your name. Great. Thank you for the tip.
Like the A in your name. Okay. I want to go a little bit darker with some of these areas in the... This might be that's stupid. No, it's not. It's okay. All right. But a little bit of shadow down here.
Oh yeah. I think you need that value.
Bit. Yeah,
oh yeah. You needed that range.
Yeah, it just needs a little bit of contrast.
Is that black?
This is black.
Okay. Yeah. You're using a lot of black tonight. A lot of times you steer clear of the black.
Well, it's not black by itself, and I'll use black with pastels. Just
not so much.
I've changed a little bit.
You don't do that often with colored pencils.
No. Colored pencils, there's too many other options, and the colored pencils aren't going to blend and mix like this.
This is almost like painting.
Yeah, so I can use a light touch, and then I can go back in with the red and make it color. Yeah, it's kind of just a darker red, you know. Mm-hmm. With the colored pencils, you can kind of do that too, but it, for whatever reason, that it kind of makes it look flat sometimes.
Yeah, that looks good now. It looks more round in
a little bit more natural.
Needed that.
Need to have this side just feel like it's a little bit more in shadow. That makes it feel a lot more three-dimensional too. Broader range of value as well. All right, how much time we got?
Elf Lord
7 minutes.
Art and Journey says, "Where's the worm?" You could have done that. You could have had a worm coming in.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Would it have been a giant worm to match the size of a watermelon, or a tiny worm from an apple?
All right, let's see if we can throw some stronger highlights on here, just in a couple areas.
You know, anytime I would say, Matt and I are teachers, and a lot of times you see little illustrations, cartoons that are teacher-related, stickers and things like that. And there's always an apple. An apple is I enjoy setting an apple on my desk. It feels like a cartoon when I do that at workplace. And but they always have a worm in them. All the little illustrations are always an apple with a worm. And I thought,
who wants to give?
Are people giving their teachers apples with worms? Is this not a nice thing to do? I don't know. Matt, have you ever eaten a piece of fruit and it had a worm in it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I think I have, but I've eaten a lot of apples from an orchard when I was growing up. And I remember sometimes there would be a hole in it, and I would try to eat on the other side. Kids will do anything. We're hungry. We used to play a game called wiffle ball. It's pretty much like baseball, but with a little plastic ball, similar to a pickleball, I guess.
We're gonna have some of these seeds.
We would play in an orchard when I was growing up. I loved playing in the apple orchard.
So it looks like these seeds are in there.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's hit this real quick with highlight, and then we'll do the background. Let's try this cream color. Let's see that highlight's hitting right in this area. Try to make it look a little bit shiny.
Mark says, better an apple with a worm than half a worm. You're right about that. I don't want any protein when I'm eating apples, right?
Make that look a little bit
Shadow Rage says, can you eat the drawing afterwards? Could. I think that PastelMat Paper would...
it'd be a little chewy.
It wouldn't go down easy.
A little chewy.
Wouldn't go down easy.
Okay, let's put a little bit of a highlight on this side too, just
it's
a slight
tough paper.
Bit. And maybe a little bit of highlight over here too, maybe just a touch.
Oh, Norleen points out that it's a bookworm in a teacher's apple. And Buddy had mentioned before, a lot of times the apple is reading the news. That's right. It's a bookworm. I get it. I've been looking at these illustrations my whole life and never put that together. Thanks, Norleen.
But if it's in an apple, is it a bookworm or is it an apple worm?
It's a bookworm in the apple. Oh. It's both, I guess. Worms can walk and chew gum at the same time. So,
all right, time for the background and the shadow. So before we do the background, let's add the shadow down here. We'll start with a gray. We'll let that kind of fade out.
Edie points out it's great to be a kid. It's the only time in life when you feel immortal. Yeah, I know. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about just picking up apples off the ground and eating them. I probably wouldn't do that now. I'd be too worried, right? We get scared. Got to let that go.
Worried who put the apple there?
Who put that worm in that apple? Does it have pesticides on it? Never crossed my mind as a child.
Would you ever eat an apple that a student brought to you?
I'll go ahead and tell you, I have been given food from students plenty of times, like around cookies around Christmas and stuff like that. And it depends on the student.
Right. Yes.
Depends on the student.
Yeah, there were definitely some
things I've gotten from students I have eaten, and some not so much.
Some gifts I received I was very thankful for.
Right.
And did not eat.
Always say thank you.
Yeah. All right, time for the background, and we're going to do a white background.
White.
Yep, white. All right, and we're going to start up here because this is where we've got all of the mess. And as I add this white background, I'm going to define the edges of the water apple, the whatever we're calling this. Did we come up with a name?
We've got Wapple. Wapple was a recent one.
Okay, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I like that. You could just put a nice heavy white outline and just leave it. That's kind of popular to do right now. I see a lot of white outlines around illustrations. Or at least I was noticing a lot of that last year.
Yeah, I'm trying to save material.
I only have a tiny piece of pastel
I just
left.
need a little bit of contrast.
Yeah.
That's all I need is just a little bit.
Knights of Lavender says, this is so good. It looks like real fruit pulp. Yeah, it really does. Nice job with that texture.
But one thing I want to point out is you don't realize it until you get the white on there. You know, it's the contrast.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Okay, we're going to let that kind of...
And the background is so
mix.
warm, you know, getting rid of it with the white really helps the warmer colors in the wapple to pop out.
All right, now we'll just fill this baby in.
Him Smith likes apple melon. Oh, yeah, you've got 57 seconds to go.
I don't think I'm going to
You
make
got
it.
all the time in the world until you don't have time. And that's just how it goes.
Well, let's see. All that's left is pretty easy here. I think I'm going to let some speckles of the paper show through here just a little bit. Instead of making it super solid.
Mark says the white really makes it pop. It sure does.
All right. 18 seconds. Am I going to make it?
Dun, 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 dun.
And then we get to find out what Ashley's going to do next week. So don't forget.
That's right. That's right. We got to check the
Don't
votes.
leave yet.
See what my future holds.
I know what it is. Anybody who went to the voting tab also knows what it is.
I hope it's something good. They're all good, but I hope it's something that hope it's something I'll enjoy.
Oh, time's
John
up.
says amazing and adds a watermelon emoji. Elf Lord's Art and Journeys has the watermelon emoji as well.
Nice. I love all those emojis. I don't know how you guys do it, but I like it.
Yeah, that looks great.
All right. Last little bit here.
Norleen says very cool, Matt.
Thank you.
Lisa says cute idea.
Thank you.
It's a cutie.
Well, let's see. Let's take that little piece off.
DB
there.
says Matt, this looks amazing.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. All right.
Yeah, that's
there
awesome.
it is.
That is cool.
There's the mash up there.
I think this would be a fun exercise to do over and over. You know, just put different fruits in a bowl and pull two tabs out, pull two options out, and then make it happen.
Well,
You could do this with a fruit in a machine. You could do a watermelon car. I mean, you can do it with anything, any kind of mashup.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be the seats could look like pulp and seeds, and the outside could be striped. Actually, you could probably make that car.
All right, just going to add a little bit of green to the stem so it feels a little bit more.
Jennifer says this is great. Pat says the emojis are available from the chat.
You'll see
Hoot and Holler says my wife walked in and asked, "Who eats a watermelon like that?" A really big human. John says I'm blown away. Shadow Rage says, "Put the pencil down now."
Yeah, it's time's up. Time's up.
Yep, time's up. Well, that one worked out really well for the time.
Well, I tell you what, it's such an advantage for these time drawings to use a material that you can overlap. That's what the key is.
Yeah.
Is being able to overlap what you've already got on the surface. That is what the big time saver is, because you can add in a base color, and then you've got a lot of it already done with just the base color down. So, alrighty. Well, there you go. The next thing on our plate is to find out what Ashley is going to be drawing next week. If I can stop. I just, the thing is,
it's hard to stop.
and this, when you stop, you see little pieces
Stuff
that
you want to touch.
Right, you want to change and fix.
Edie says this is perfect for a kitchen wall. Yeah, I can see a whole series of these for kitchens. Dragons on Stilt says I've combined animals and fruit before. Forbidden
interesting.
Colossus says background is trippy, vibrating equiluminously. Excellent word. I love that. Equiluminously.
How? I never learned that word. I feel ripped off.
You don't learn it until you get past the 5th grade, Matt.
Right,
So
right. That's
there's
my
a reason
problem.
for that.
All right, we know what time it is,
That's right. Let's see.
I think we know
What's
what time
next
it
week?
is.
What are we going to be doing next week
Let's
together?
find out what time it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Let's Get Creative! contestants, Matt and Ashley. And now, tonight's Let's Get Creative Challenge.
All right, so as you know, there is the big board.
Here we go.
With all of the prompts, and we're about to find out what prompt Ashley is going to be doing next week. But before we do here, I'm going to get this up on this screen. So talk amongst yourself for a minute.
See, less is more.
All right, there we go.
Upside down. Right. Of course, a few of these we've already done, so those aren't options. I think we only have 5 options per week that's available.
Yep. So let's see what it is.
Oh, what's it gonna be?
And it is Scratch That Itch.
All right, I've been doing that all hour, so glad I wasn't on camera.
So what is Scratch That Itch? Well, Scratch That Itch is to create an image using Scratchboard.
One of my favorite media.
Yep.
Fantastic, Scratchboard.
So for those of you who don't know, Scratchboard is basically a surface that's been prepared with a layer of black ink over the top, and you use sharp tools to remove the black ink, revealing the white underneath. It can be really any color underneath. But
yeah, a lot of times it's called Scratch. I mean, there's cheaper versions. It's called Scratch Paper.
Right.
And a lot of times they're actually like rainbow colored underneath, or gold or silver. So you could use any of those as well. The idea is what's underneath is light. So if you can't find Scratchboard, or order some Scratchboard and have it in time, maybe you can find some Scratch Paper at like an art and craft store. Just pick up some of that. Even if it's like silver underneath, it'll still look really great.
Yeah, and it's also called Scrapeboard too. Some people call it Scrapeboard.
Scrapeboard.
But yeah, you can usually find this at your local art store. I ordered a ton of it, so
yeah,
I've got a ton of it.
I
here.
have some huge. I think it comes in like 22 by 28 sheets, the size of standard poster board here in the United States, and I could imagine how long it would take to do a scratch board that large, because it's usually a very fine detail medium, but we're going to only have 45 minutes. So we have to get creative with our tools. So bring anything that makes a mark, anything that's sharp, or anything that's sharp. Just bring it.
Yeah, the challenge is going to be finishing this in the amount of time, but I think if you choose a subject that is
I'm going to have to give
relatively
this one some thought as to what to do.
Yeah.
And see
knowing what you normally like to draw, you know, like machinery type stuff.
Hard edged type imagery will probably work well. Now, in my classroom, we usually choose imagery that has a lot of texture and try to use the our mark making to make that texture happen. So I use Scratchboard in my classroom with my students once a year, and our theme is always scales, feathers, or fur. And so we're working with it, but I'm not sure if we're going to do that. We might pick something that has a smoother surface. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it for a few days.
Well, while Ashley thinks about that, we were going to go ahead and get ready for the live lesson that's going to follow up after this.
It's time. I'm on deck.
Yep. So we're going to move things around. I'm going to clean up all of these pastels. Actually, I'm going to throw, you guys can't see this, but I have probably 30 pencils. I have three pastel sets out. I have a tray. I mean, I've got stuff everywhere. We've got a lot to clean up. There's pastel everywhere to get ready for the oil pastels. Or not the oil pastels, the oil painting that's going to follow here in just a minute. If you guys are going to join us for the live lesson, we'll see you in just a minute. For the rest of you guys, I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you right here next week for, I guess it's episode 8. Yeah. So you have 2 more drawings. I have 1 more drawing, and then after that, we'll have the review show. And again, if you like this video, make sure you give it a like.
Please.
Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next week. Ashley, you want to say anything to folks before we...
I'm glad that we won't have such a duration between this show and the next, so we'll see you back here in just 7 days.
Yeah. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.